It's your boy Brainsy. Welcome to day 110 of Workout Grind. Today is Sunday and it's chest day. I missed workout from yesterday for my arms workout. I fucked it up. I just lost my streak. I fucked up everything. Look at my room and I'm very stressed because I woke up at fucking 7 a.m. and I did not start my day until today, which is now 1:50 p.m. I have so many shit to do and I've done nothing but doom scroll, watch Rick and Morty, and eat my fucking eggs and drink my protein shakes. That's stupidly long. I have so many shit to do, man. And I got so overwhelmed and I'm not really sure how to handle this. I wanted to quit social media, but then I feel like I can't because I will feel like what am I living for? Just grind every day? I need to watch the memes, bro. But I can't because it fucks me up. So I'm in this never-ending cycle of self-doubt, of not sure what to do, and I'm just gonna drown it out in workout. I need to drown it out with workout, man. I have to. I have no choice. Gotta do this. I need to do this quick because I gotta go. I gotta get my my Galaxy Watch 5 Pro in the marketplace by 5 p.m. and commute takes 2 hours to get in his place. I don't got no time for that anymore. Fuck. I'm pissed at myself and I'm so pissed with myself. I didn't do shit. I was just laying in bed doing nothing. But they said in my therapy that I watched through ChatGPT, it says it's also true that self-blame, self-loathing, self-doubt does not help in my situation. So I'm gonna stop it. I'm gonna try to forgive myself. Just do it, just do it. Just act on whatever I can act. Just don't think about anything. Brain off. Instinct mode on, okay? I'm gonna do that now. I'm panicking a bit because I fucking hate the way I was so stoked about this day because I was left alone for today, so I had all the means to do whatever grind I wanted to do without having with no distractions. And what I did with those free time is to literally squander it all doom scrolling. I justified it thinking I'm just gonna stop and this is just a small break to keep me sane, which ended up fucking me over and I wasn't able to do anything at all. I made that mistake a bajillion times and I still get surprised every time it happens because I thought I've changed. I thought it's gonna be different this time and I understand myself more than ever. Turns out I still don't, or I'm trying to be blind. I'm trying to give a blind side reality of what truly is happening. Otherwise, I'm such a dumbass. I shouldn't have done it. I should have kept going, starting my day early. Should have done that ages ago, and I didn't do it because I'm a piece of shit. Now I'm gonna try to compensate by doing a lot of things, and I already know that's also not gonna be a good outcome because I will burn out quick, and this is not sustainable. I need to calm myself down, but it's really difficult, so please bear with me. I know what I need to do, it's just a bit overwhelming. I gotta calm down. Okay, I'm calm. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right.
On the morning of May 22nd, 2019, Sean Alexandra Chateau.
I'm sorry you'll have to see that. I'm just such a piece of shit sometimes. I'm sometimes really proud of myself, but one of those days, I guess to balance the success, that's how my body works.
Made a thread on an obscure website announcing that she was about to take her own life. Instead of attempting to dissuade her, the responses to her thread were, "Good luck with everything, my fellow JoJo fan. May your travel be peaceful and successful. Wish you success. I hope you have smooth travels. Good luck. I hope your journey is peaceful. Good luck. I'm doing hanging now." These messages were not sent ironically. Unlike websites like 4chan, where users are quick to assume everything you're saying is untrue or just for attention and will tell you to do it as a joke, this forum fully knew what Sean meant. As a matter of fact, the very method that she used came from the forum. The third reply to her thread asked her about the specific concoction she took to achieve her desired result, which she replied to, giving the exact amount of the substance she took, before adding, "Also, I feel bad because my mom is just down the hall from me." In response, another user said, "For some reason, I'm not 100% sure this will work because your mother is down the hall. If she hears noises coming from your room, she will come in and will call an ambulance if you're in a bad way. I'm not trying to stop you, I'm just saying." Half an hour later, Sean returned to the thread to announce she had finished taking these substances, saying, "Just took it. I'm terrified." The replies that followed read like a celebration, most of them saying she had found peace. Surprisingly, the only part about this the posters took any issue with is that her account was banned, which would prevent her from posting again in case she survived, so they wouldn't be able to know how effective the method was. They even have a code phrase for attempting take your own life: catching the bus. A couple of hours after her last post, Sean's mother took notice of her absence and decided to knock on the door. When she received no answer, she walked in, only to find her daughter lying on the floor. Once the police arrived, they were perplexed by the fact that they couldn't figure out why she had died. That is, until they went through her phone, instantly finding the forum and a series of posts from other users giving her step-by-step instructions on a 3-day regimen of over-the-counter medication that would lead to her passing. A couple of days later, a user named Curious1983 made a new post to the thread. "I'm a family member of this girl, and yes, it was successful, but I can tell you how it feels. It feels horrible for everybody who is left behind. It feels absolutely unthinkable for her mother and her brothers and sister and her dad and her stepdad and her aunts and uncles and cousins. It is heartbreaking and it is devastating. It is the worst pain you could ever imagine. For all of those out there feeling like this is the only way, think about all the people you are leaving behind. The people who would do anything and everything to make it better for you. So instead of encouraging these people to feel like this is the only way, how about let's encourage them to get help and to know that there are other ways." And the worst part of it is her mother had to find this post and that people were encouraging her daughter to take her life instead of helping her, completely undoing everything her family had been doing. While one user had the decency to say they were sorry for this person's loss, the next poster started asking for details on Sean's death, asking if it was peaceful. The second page of the thread, meanwhile, is full of people arguing with Sean's relative, saying her mother sounded like a narcissist for blaming the website and other things of that sort. Eventually, the owner of the website, Marquise, came to the thread to say this: "I want to make one thing very clear. No one was encouraging her to take her life. This isn't a pro-death forum. It's a pro-choice one, meaning either way, we will support your decision." With Sean's family coming forward and speaking to the media, news about what had happened blew up, and there came many calls for the website to be taken down, as well as for laws to be created to punish anyone who encourages people like Sean to take their own lives. Due to the massive controversy that took place, the site's owner once again came forward to respond to the claims that he was running a website that encouraged people to take their own lives. "I don't blame the parents, friends, and siblings of the member for blaming this forum for their loss. It has been very hard for me to make this thread, as I felt like I was at fault somehow for what happened. I've been contemplating many things ever since this happened. Any loss of human life will always be sad and tragic, and I do really feel for the family in this situation. At the same time, I don't appreciate the misrepresentation of this forum by the family in the media, or the constant calls in the past few days for this forum to be shut down. The accusations of encouraging death are completely unfounded. The demonization of this forum by family members and friends of the deceased member on Facebook has been sickening for me to watch. To say that our community encourages people to take themselves out is simply not true. To say that this forum murdered this member is false. There's not a single post in the thread that the deceased member posted that encourages death in any capacity, and to suggest that they were would not be true in the slightest. It is against our rules to encourage anyone to die or any other type of act, and every single member that has signed up knows this fact. Anyone that does encourage a person is quickly removed from the community. We strive to make this community a censorship-free place where people can discuss this topic without having to worry about being involuntarily committed and held against their will. We have a good portion of members that have left this community because they wanted to get on a path to recovery from this, and we support those members as well. We allow the discussion of recovery on our forums because that's what pro-choice is all about. Being able to make those choices without anyone persuading you. We have thousands of members that count on this forum every day to provide them support. I would even go as far as to say that this forum has saved far more lives than any other discussion board on the internet. Without this forum, many of these vulnerable individuals will be without a home or outlet to vent their frustrations with life or about anything else. Based on how this post presents itself, you'd think that this is just a self-help group for people with these kinds of ideation. But what's blatantly left out is that while outright encouragement is banned, it's only banned nominally. You're still clearly allowed to commend someone who will move forward with their attempt. And on top of that, there are absolutely no guidelines against providing in detail instructions on how to do it most effectively, none of which I can show here for obvious reasons. On the other hand, it seems like the users usually refrain from telling people not to do it. With these things in place, whatever arguments about how the website doesn't encourage the act come up short. This isn't to say that radical censorship is the answer, but if the site provides tutorials on how to take yourself out, to act like it's not facilitating people to do so is just acting oblivious. No addict recovery center will also have instructions on how to procure narcotics and how to shoot up most effectively right next to their pamphlets. It feels like recently there's been a lot of discussion on the internet about the ethics of things like gambling websites or OnlyFans, with some people arguing that they can easily destroy people's lives and thus should be cracked down on. But the thing about both of those is you can still come back in some way, regardless of how far you've fallen into those rabbit holes, because ultimately you're still alive. In the case of Marquise's forum and the philosophy of Nichters, there is no coming back. Additionally, given how their philosophy can easily be the product of a mental illness and is often inseparable from it, you can easily compare this to anorexia communities. If you're familiar with terms like thinspo, pro-ana, and pro-mia, then you know how big of a problem this is and how bad certain corners of the internet are as far as rationalizing and normalizing mental illnesses and then intertwining them with true information related to nutrition. It gets even more ethically questionable, if not downright evil, when you factor in that some of the people who are on this forum, some of which go through with it, are minors. At least one 17-year-old who took his own life, Matthew, was verified to have gotten his method from the website, while several other unconfirmed teenagers are claimed to have done the same. It really doesn't matter how rational you consider your philosophy on taking your own life to be, minors aren't equipped to make a decision like that. The site does have a minimum age of 18 to register, but their age verification is a simple CAPTCHA that has you say you're 18, so it doesn't really verify if you're actually of age, which is something even Discord servers can do at this point with little to no cost. As of 2025, the forum has existed for nearly 8 years, and during this time, there have been an alleged 45 identified cases of people who took their own lives after joining the website, not just from the United States, but also from a variety of other countries around the world. At least 3 of these were minors, although the ages of people who are now deceased go all the way up to 58. And once again, keep in mind, these are only the ones who have been identified, as over 500 members have posted their own goodbye threads and proceeded to never post again. Now, some of them could have survived, some of them could be faking it, but the likelihood is that a good part of this 500, if not the majority, actually did it, and it was just never traced back to the forum directly. In January of 2023, YouTuber Martin Curie, known online as Tantacruel, posted a video about the forum. According to him, not only does it incentivize people to not seek help from mental health services and family members, but it also tries to reinforce that only people who want to do it themselves can truly understand their thinking, which is very cult-like as it cuts people off from the outside world and reinforces their bond to this group and their shared interest. Lastly, Martin claims that the forum serves as a kind of marketplace for self-harm methods. He says that posts on the forum directly led him to a man named Kenneth Law, who sold the materials needed for one of the forum's preferred methods. Kenneth allegedly sold these to over 100 people worldwide, with the age of customers ranging from 16 to 36. When he contacted Kenneth to try and make a purchase, he was never asked about about his age. Worst of all, Martin concludes by saying that there are many people on the forum who do the exact same thing as Kenneth. Now, I'm going to reiterate, I'm not a journalist. These aren't claims I'm making personally. I'm simply documenting what's been claimed by all of these other people and outlets like the New York Times. However, it is a matter of fact that Kenneth Law is a real person. He's a 60-year-old man currently facing 14 counts of first-degree murder. The Canadian police claim that he sent as many as 160 poison packages to people in Canada and at least 1,200 to people around the world, totaling over 40 countries. Out of all of these packages, he's been linked to somewhere between 117 and 131 deaths. However, that number may be much higher. I think these are just the ones they're trying to prosecute him for, as given the international and indirect nature of the crimes, trying to charge him for every single package he sent would probably be a legal nightmare when it comes to certain obscure territories. It's ironic that he's being legally processed in Canada, of all places, which is the one country where euthanasia has recently become more publicly accepted, and even quote-unquote mature minors, you heard that right, can apply for MAID, short for medical assistance in dying, which is basically when you get doctors to kill you painlessly. As for the forum itself, based solely on what you can see for yourself by going on it, a significant portion of these claims are true. Any expression of intent to catch the bus is applauded unquestioningly by most users. To be clear, this doesn't mean censorship is the answer. It's not as if a perfectly healthy person will get on this website and then catch the bus the next day. However, I also don't think that this site's culture is necessarily helpful for people who do struggle with these issues, and it especially crosses the line for there to be no good age verification and for there to be users giving instructions on how to do it. Ultimately, I'm not here to tell you what to think, but to better understand the nature of the website, I think it's important to get into where this website came from, what other websites it's tied to, and who is actually behind it. All the way back in early 2013, a subreddit with the same name as the forum was created by a Reddit user called Deadman5551. It's important to mention here that this person is not the previously mentioned Marquise, who later came to own the website. These are two different people, and it seems that maybe because this was on Reddit and thus required more careful conduct, Deadman's moderation of it was much more careful than Marquise's. Interestingly enough, as of me writing this video, Deadman hasn't posted in 3 years, so it's entirely possible that he followed through on what his subreddit was about, and his name is no longer symbolic. Then again, there is a Minecraft skin database profile with that same name, and it was updated 9 months ago, so maybe he just left Reddit and is currently mining diamonds. Whatever the case is, the initial set of rules for the subreddit forbid sharing personal information, saying that anything identifiable would be interpreted as a cry of help and forwarded to the authorities. But most importantly, there was no tolerance for discussions of the actual physical act of taking one's life, whether it be procedures or methods or whatever. Doing so would result in an instant ban. As long as the internet's been around, there's always been a variety of online platforms for the discussion of this topic, although many of them either became people trying to prevent others from doing it, or they got banned and shut down for providing explicit methods. The sanctioned subreddit was unique in that it was made specifically to discuss the philosophy of the right to die, and it took about 2 years for it to even reach 1,000 members. But it's at this point that we start getting into the issue. Much like Marquise's website and other splinter forums, although the sanctioned subreddit had rules against encouraging and providing methods, there were always people blatantly breaking those rules and not being punished. This is not only observable through archives, but also directly claimed by a user of the current sanctioned website. This is sort of the primary issue overall, as all of Marquise's arguments that we went over earlier rely solely on what the rules are. But to actually get into how they're enforced is very difficult, especially for an outsider with no familiarity with it. They can easily have a rule up nominally to make themselves look good, and then internally decide to not enforce it whatsoever, and whenever someone points out that a post is breaking a rule and hasn't been banned, they can just give the excuse of incompetent moderation as opposed to intentionally allowing it. To no one's surprise, by early 2018, once Reddit had been subject to a massive ban wave due to the political climate around that era, the sanctioned subreddit, along with its splinter, were banned for, quote, encouraging violence. At its peak, the sub had over 15,000 members, all of whom were now looking for somewhere else to go. One of the options which presented itself was r/time to go, which has since been restricted and quarantined, despite being a lot more careful with its moderation than Sanctioned was. Besides that, there's also r/right to die, which has existed since 2009 as a subreddit for the advocacy of the right to take your own life. Remember, this is the exact purpose of the original Sanctioned subreddit, so you have to wonder why Sanctioned got banned and this one didn't. It's almost as if there was actually a moderation problem where dozens of posts advocating for death and providing methods went unpunished. Finally, to satiate the morbid cravings of people who actually want to dwell on discussions of taking one's own life constantly, the standalone website with the same name as the Sanctioned subreddit was created. Now that they no longer had to pretend to abide by Reddit's guidelines,
Hello, Reddit readers. Hi, everyone who sits on Reddit all day reading it. You're retarded.
this community became what it always wanted to be in the first place, a virtual monument to taking one's life. Of course, they can talk about how they also provide resources for people to get better, but you can just take a look at their homepage to see the reality of the situation. The discussion category, where people share their reasons and their thoughts on the most efficient methods, has over 15 times the activity of the recovery category. And that should tell you something about the purpose of this website. Even the off-topic section has more activity. I don't think it's worthwhile to get into the specifics of the forum itself, not only because I've already gone over the most relevant parts, but also because most of the discussions involve extremely depressing testimonies from people who are mentally unwell, if not explicit information on methods of death. While I don't think these people should be demonized or necessarily stripped of a platform, there are plenty of people to whom this kind of ideation is
Hi, baby! Hello! Hello! I'm sorry. Kabalo lagi ka. Ha? Eh? Mga bantay. Ito, bigay ko ya.
impulsive issue, and continuously discussing this kind of stuff can lead to what psychology refers to as rumination. If you suffer from things like depression, it can be best to avoid needlessly exposing yourself to things about it for the most part, as you can easily sort of trick yourself into a bad spiral under the impression you're learning or getting something out of it. If you've heard about people who develop PTSD as a consequence of looking at gore online, the process is very similar, where they think they're somehow improving as a person by desensitizing themselves to it, when in reality, they're just making themselves increasingly damaged. Having said all of that, when this community was relegated to subreddits, you'd at least have the excuse that subreddits are
Ha? Ha? Moto ang actual proper. I thought so myself. Nag-straight ra kog likod. But apparently that's wrong.
easy to make.
Because dili ma-activate ang ako ang front delt. Kung naka 70-degree angle ko, and ang ako ang kamot is nakaana lang, dili completely ana sa lateral raise, mas ma-activate ang akong front delt. So, it's actually the best form. That's so weird. Dili, kani ang sakit. Mana ang target? I thought so too. Pero apparently, kung mag-straight ko, ang mas maigo is ang dere. Which is wrong. Dapat kani ang akong igon. Anyways, balik sa
Random, useless subs that aren't even looked after. But it gets a little harder to explain when you decide to pay out of your pocket to run an independent website to keep the community alive. I mean, what kind of person would willingly run a website with this subject? Well, ultimately, it was precisely the decision to host Sanctioned on its own website that led journalists to who was really behind it all. You see, the original Sanctioned domain was hosted through a registrar called Epic, and in January 2021, Epic decided to stop hosting them because of the presence of minors on their website. While the site came back just a few days days later, it wasn't the takedown itself that affected them most, but instead the information that they were hosted by Epic that led to the site taking a hit. Nearly 9 months later, Epic was hacked, and the resulting data leak led to the discovery of the real identities of the owners of the website. First, the slightly more public and de facto spokesperson and admin of the site, Marquise, was actually revealed to be an American man by the name of LaMarcus Small. Some journalists
Uy! Uy! Be! Be, kita ako ang mga barkada sa kong gimayday ba? Nag-post sila og GIF na kanang i-post sila lang nila lang self. Kaya wala sila uyab. Mga suyaon.
Pili na disayaan ka. Pili na disayaan ka.
Sabi ha. Napakay ka dito natin. Ah! Ah! Balsan ko da. Balsan ko.
Pili na papayaan sa pag-ibig.
Gods. Ay, din bibi, nastoryahan man ta ka last time, di ba? Na, Ning, move si Neil sa amo ang apartment.
Lagi-lagi, gusto magsilip.
Na siya dito. Nagpahangya siya, nakanaingnan ako si mama, ang ayog saba ni siyang mama, ni papa.
Ay, na din yung parents.
Bibi, unsa magod me? Altachera me before. Mura na siya isa ka gamay na neighborhood dayon silingan rami. Dayon, servers of the altar pud si Neil. Moadto siya sa simbahan didto sa Altachera. So makita jud me. And yeah, amigo jud na sila.
Yung inanas mamang ni mama.
Then akong giingnan like, maaylan na saba. Then siya, nakastorya man siya sa kuha. Kanang mumove daw siya. Then nada siya yun sa ni, uyab. Nada siya partner. Napatay yun siya. Muda yung balhin-balhin siya sa mama. Kinada siya dalang bayi. Like, man, kuan. Makitaan na bitaw gyapon ni mo ni. Pagkaugma. Kinala lagi siya today. Sa ingnan na lang takadaan, pwede ka ma-surprise. Ay siya, mang, bayot ra ba? Lucky ra ba na ikaw ba? Ay, ha? Ano? Ah! Na siya, dalang bayot. Mang, bayot to si Neil. Like, ha? Bayot si Neil? Hawa ka na tingala na siya kauban bayot din siya, dili. Like, pwede ba din na na straight na lalaki tapos na uya bayot? Like, ay, no. Kay dili pa madawat sa kumama na bayot po siya. Bibi, lucky maguna siya ever since. Karon na siya ning bayot atong second year? Third year college me. Nanguya pag gani na siya bayo sa una tapos na heartbreak eh. Wala siya gisug. Wala. Oh. Like, tungod nimo, nabayot ko. Anyways, yeah. Moto. Natangala ko, like, nga nagstay pa sila sa Pagadian. Na pwede man ito sila mabalhin sa Iligan.
Ano apartment to yung illegal? Bakit pag-12K lang?
Ang reason why, 5K mapad amo ah. Ang reason why is, ganahan daw siya. Whoa! What the fuck? Yo! Nana siya burot. Na siya mag-texture. Anyways, ang reason why is nihangya pa iyahang mama na sige, if muhawa ka sa mong balay, do it slowly. Murag pa-ease in daw ba sa transition na muhawa na siya. Kaya unsa mo na iyang mama ka na bitong overprotective magupod na iyang mama para sa kung mama ba dili ganahan buyan ang anak dapat nara sa nest. Wag ganyan siya gipay-IT, mag-IT man ta na si Neil para magto siya iligan. So gipapagadian na siya eskwela. Nagipalitan lang gaming no laptop, gaming tanan.
No.
Oh. Pero karon di naman siya ganahan si Neil.
Dili ka babe.
Kuan. Of course, iligan ko. Eh,
Your gaming.
ha?
Your gaming.
IIT, of course. My independence is so much important to me. Anyways, kuan magod. Mama ni Neil, diing na niya. Na bayot siya. Tapos na siya uyab na lalaki. Yang papa manggod, very, very high blaron, very, 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 very against kaayo. Nabayot siya. Tapos bibi na stroke na siya ikapila. Like imagine na mo drop kag news na pa. You remember bayot ko? Kabalo na yung papa na bayot siya pero wa siya kabalo na uyab. Okay, nanapog ko uyab pa. Patay yung papa, right? So muna di siya magpasaba. Then, pero dili ka na yung mama mo hawa siya. So, ingon siya, hangyo na lang yung mama na kanang stay lang sa dere until half of 2026 para maka-slowly anad-anad mi na wala na ka dere. Tapos, when the time is right, dito na mo sa iligan. Nanamgod na sila balay jud. Like, nana sila actual balay. Gihimuan sila og balay sa side sa yahang uyab ni Neil with lote. House and lot. Gihimuan sila. Mga dato na yung uyab. Pero ning compromise na lang sila ni stay silang duha dito sabay iyahang uyab na taga iligan sa pagidian gi. Suportaan si Neil. Sana all suportaan. Adto jud iligan ang pagadian sa diha.
Wow.
Hey.
Bato ko pagadian na.
Hey.
Ano ba ang pagadian?
Australia. Australia. Di ko at the moment.
Diba? Sa wow. Ilaliwan ko ka edad sa pag-ano community sa pagadian.
Dali na. But yeah, mo Toy Story. Sugot kay atong anak bibi bayot.
I have an choice for you.
Pero sagot ka. Dili ka sugot but dawato na lang nimo.
Saan man na ako ang patio?
Ako okay ra ko, ako paki mo man ang kinabuhi. I go by my rule man good boy. Whatever makes you happy jud bay. Itong kanta ba? Kahit pa ano pa ang gusto mo. Basta wala ka pa, tinatapa ka na tao. Pero, wala lang. Wala na yung apo. Sad. Why apo? Ha? Para, ma-fail lang isa, dapat isa. Back up. Ba't di mo? Yes na. Mag-ata ko balik, bibi. Mag-prepare para ba unta ko. Kipag alas 3, mulakaw na ko magbuwa sa smartwatch. Wala jud ko kalihok, bibi. Galata ra ko. Gadom scroll. Sorry. Unyang gabi wala man sila dili piti na ta mag-chili. Pinata chili. Okay. Ya, kumusta man itong mga ig-agaw? Nagturo dyan sila.
Isa na ka po kayo tapos yung sa kaibigan lalaki. Kaya parang igagaw siya doon na siya anak tapos siya bana.
Ano sa edad?
Mama.
Yang bana is yang mama?
Okay lang mama.
Aw!
Kumpare na lang na. Tapos ako na lang pong invite ko anyway. Dapat scratch yung selection. Sige na.
Wala dyan si ilang kisya o imuhang mama. Imong mama na actual daughter-in-law.
Oo.
Crazy. Ano mag-i-invite mo mama?
Hindi po sila. Iwan na nag-actually din na sila.
Kisha man to. Apil pa di mo mama?
Oo. Papi.
Cairo.
Papi ang mga namin. Si Papi. Pag-ulit pala. Hindi sila mahal.
Lagi bitaw. Na-apil pagalit silang kerchi. Like, wala at all relationship sa imong lula.
Sige, kung anak ko yung delivery.
So, meaning, family si Kuya Eli.
Kung ako naman na siya, lugar naman na siya yung sa pamilya.
Okay.
Namagod na siya every birthday, Monday. The first, ay, okay. So, ano, kano gina siya, or ano siya. But always magod na siya na there is some
Dahil sa man yung gipangkaan. Ikaw regaluto, wala ni apili mo hang lolo man lang. Wala ka na lang yung trabaho. Mat.
Sa pagbalangan ko. Sa pagbalangan ko. Mas, gabi, next ko ka ako, may mga kabiba kayo.
Fresh.
Tapos nito ko kay Pagdungan may nag-like mo nilang kaya hindi ko tulog pala ako. Pinalis ko yung encourage. Nangibis ko sa luto na. Nag-catch up mo ni Kuya Eli Bobby.
Kumusta man siya?
Lamig, ayaw mo sa kalsada, wala nagsabak. Ano siya? Kung sa mo, Kuya, kung hindi nga, kung di mo Kuya. Tapos na ang work, boring na ang work, sarap ko. Oo naman. Tama. Sa namin ko yung ex.
Bago lang? Bago lang sila ex?
Oo. Why matras sila? Ako na. Malakan.
Kamusta lang sila nag-ex?
Mag-ano daw?
Ano daw?
Mga 3 months, 2 months, no? Ha?
Ano daw?
Buwan kami, nag-live na sila. Kung ano siya naman sa sponsor ko sa other school ba? Ano? Ngayon sila, ang galing mo to, kaya gusto naman daw mag-renew.
Oh,
Ano
wow.
ba ito? Bigay na 27? 28 naman natin siya.
Tiguan.
24 to 5 to 6, 7. 28 na siya, mag-29 na siya.
Ate, edad isa kong ate. Eh, wait, nasa kong ate? 30 na akong ate? What the fuck? Tiguwa nga ay! Minopos! Ay, joke lang. Kunsa? Ano magsaba po siya sa imo ha? Like, uy ko, by the way, life update. Nakoy, uyan. Ha?
Ilan namang good may bukan lagi may babi best friend miss lagi may babi
Okay.
best friend mi nga dili anak mo mi.
Tapos, unsa may story anak nila? Sige daw.
One daw ang girl daw gusto na mo settle, gusto na mag-renew.
Isa. Iba na ako. Kamoy me. Dayan. Dayan! Naminaw ko.
Sige, dili pa siya ready. Kaya gusto ba siya mag-flowers?
Unahan siya, mabaog na.
Gusto ba siya mag-flowers? Gusto ba siya?
Wow.
Bakit mo sa mga kabi, please.
Ang dami.
Wait ko sa pag-vlog now. Andito na mo rin natin mga tayo pa.
2 minutes ako ang limit. Nag-work out ako. Ano ba? Uy. Turyahin din ko while nag-plan ko.
Panangkap naman na kayo doon lang.
Ah. Proper na.
Hindi na siya naman ng stage. Feeling niya ako. Siya hindi niya ako ba i-keyword. Pumunta niya sa stage ba? May gusto mo siya mag-travel with the person. Gusto mo siya mag-travel kaya lang. Kaya ako na pwede mag-bulag siya.
Okay.
Step by step ka mo. Ano na ka just like kuya.
Plok, punta. May kikog plan. Nagisad na jud ko for you. Dayan. Aw, naki-picture? Asa ato?
Nag-train na post 4 months po ako.
Naki-picture? After 4 months pa lang? Damn. Kachoy, ana, plok. Ah! Mm. Hindi ka pwede na ba yun ko? Hindi, mentally, physically po. Uy, grabe. Mura mag-char-char lang ako ng gikapoy ko. Will. Bro, chill. Hindi ko, yung collapse ko pag ulang. Baby, kabala ka unsa akong gihimo earlier? Ano man, sa purpose? Baby, nagdagan ang timer. Medyo na yung specialty ba? Buti mo. Ayun, nakikita ng specialty yan. Ano, wedding niya. Dayon. Dayon. Mata. Okay. Unsa may update nila ng card chip. Kiring. Nag-ask ka nilang card chip o kiring if nag-block na sila. Kabala naman sila. Klaro ka na. Nag-discuss ba ta ato ha katong sa pagwala ba to? Si tawag ato katong na si Luffy. Doon na nga tawag sila. Katong na si L tapos nakasabot kay si Ronald na bag-ora na abot. Na-discuss, mga to siya like, humana? Okay, goods na. Ay, sus. Klaro, ana. Klaro, ana. Baby, murag mo na ng utok, nag-mentally protect sa imuha para dili ka ma-scar for life. Baby, kabala na sila, klaro kayo, baby. Sus. Sus.
Gusto mo pa sila. Gusto mo may babi. Gusto na nagtutulungan ko ang bitabi ko ito kung ang gawag ko. Isa sila. Sa resource na ikaw rin ito si ay wala magkasuka. Ano ka? Ay, ako kay hindi wala mo nila. Sila. Ikaw rin. Ano, sinabon ko nila. Ikaw rin.
Kabala na sila bebe. Sige bebe, ay cope na lang dira. Sige bebe mo. Bahala ka. Sige na lang. Sige, wala pa sila kabala eh. Cute pa di ba bebe ay? May kiss. Sabi ka wala. Bukan. Kumusta man lolo nimo? Milyonaryo na? Milyonaryo na man lolo, wala gyapon.
Actually went to his house to talk.
Ha? So yun, praga pa niyang kwarta saan saan eh. Ano sa tawagan na nila? Balato? Si tawagan na nila ng gambling na. Ano? Ha? Scatter. Scatter, gapon. Walay daog. Aha. Pero, sabi fair, wala pa ko atraso ni Lolo kaya wala pa man siya gihimo sa kuha. So, okay pa kung Lolo.
To him about it.
I stay neutral.
Waited for 2
Si wala. Okay. So, I stay neutral pa. Pero, I recognize na hindi siya all that good na person. Luba, hindi ka. Hindi mo. Hindi mo. Kiss ka ba? Ikat ako. Mangihit ako. Ha?
days outside his home before he finally took the trash out.
Hi, Lamarcus. How are you? I'm Angus from the BBC. I want to talk to you about the forum you set up. You know, hundreds of people have died after going on that. Children are even going on that. Have you got anything to say to the relatives of the dead? Lamarcus, surely you've got the guts to come out and talk to me.
Now, on one hand, I don't really like most most journalists, especially mainstream journalists, so I kind of feel bad for him being harassed like this. At the same time, it's not shocking to me that he's being questioned given the kind of site he runs. In another instance of an attempted approach, the Daily Mail got to him while he was walking toward his car, but they still failed to get anything regarding the website out of him. Unlike the BBC and the Daily Mail, the New York Times actually did get some significant information from LaMarcus. They discovered he still lived with his mom and brother, and that his mother had been previously accused of attacking her husband in 2010 and her daughter in 2014. If these accusations against her are true, then still living with your violently abusive mother in your late 20s to early 30s goes a long way to explain why he felt so drawn to Sanctioned. Over 2 different phone interviews they managed to carry out with him, LaMarcus claimed that he had no idea how any of his information ended up being used to host the site. As you can tell, this probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, and he eventually wisened up and stopped responding to the New York Times altogether. But in the epic data leak, they also found information belonging to another person, seemingly completely unrelated to LaMarcus, outside of both of them having a role in running Sanctioned. On the website, he was known as Sergeant Incel, or simply Sarge, but his real name was Diego Joaquin Gallante, an Uruguayan man who, like LaMarcus, was also in his late 20s and still lived with his whole family. The New York Times mentions also having pictures of him, but as far as I can tell, these weren't actually published. Gallante was a bit more forthcoming with the New York Times, as he admitted to posting to the site as Surge and actually defended it, as he believed it had been an overall positive influence on users' lives. Most likely because he never wanted this much attention in the first place, and due to the fact that assisting someone in taking their own life is illegal in Uruguay, Surge instantly backed away from his role in the forum. LaMarcus did the same, but not before posting a lengthy goodbye thread. This time, not the usual kind of goodbye thread that gets made on this website. In it, he said, "Hello members of the community. Today, I announced my resignation as operator. By tomorrow, this account will be permanently deleted, and I won't have any access to the site, administrative permission, or anything to do with the back end. Since Sarge hasn't been involved with the site in a long time, and I'm resigning too, I've spent the last week transferring everything over to the new operator. Someone capable and trustworthy who you will get to know very soon." The way the New York Times has twisted the purpose of this community and the good that it has done has been very damaging to everyone. Not only did they make a transparent attempt to take this site down, but they did so in the most unethical and dishonest way possible. This place is full of caring people that are hurting, looking for someone to talk to, or looking for support in life. We are not a cult. While it is true that many people come here during their darkest moments, myself included, my main intent has always been to make this place into somewhere people can talk about issues in their life, without judgment or without being shoved off to a person that doesn't care about their well-being. I have received many thanks from many members on and off this site that tell me that feel at ease about whatever bad is going on in their life. I have also had the opportunity to speak to some of those grieving over the loss of family or loved ones, and I got a chance to hear from them. As a person that has experienced loss myself twice in the last year alone, I know that it is easy to get over losing a loved one. I have much sympathy for those that have gone through the same, and my condolences to them. I have made many friends here, many of whom I would like to still keep in touch with after I resign. It's been wonderful. I'm going to signing off for good. Judge of LaMarcus's sincerity here, but what's interesting to me is that the new operator he mentions here turns out to be a user named Rain in Sadness, who replied to this thread. Interestingly enough, this new operator has always made it clear they're transgender and actively compared anti-trans talking points to the no journalist has ever published any personal information on it, despite their efforts to the site being ongoing. However you cut it, it seems that while it was convenient to pursue it, and as soon as it proved to be a little more complicated than just pushing for the government to have the power to take down any and all websites, the majority of journalists backed away. To this day, their own section on the sanctioned Wikipedia, despite no Rain in Sadness is mentioned just once, with no information beyond their online alias. As far as I can tell, Diego has never made any effort to publicly speak out, while LaMarcus has made a series of posts on Kiwi Farms, mostly to the thread about Sanctioned. In it, he claims that, despite all of the hubbub from journalists, actual law enforcement authorities only reached out to him twice, which is a bit surprising considering the amount of attention his case was getting at its peak. He does make some good points about how involuntary commitment to mental hospitals is part of why communities like Sanctioned exist, as people with those feelings can't express themselves freely in fear they'll get put away against their will. Additionally, he confirms that, despite having left the website for years at this point, point, journalists will still insist on reaching out to him instead of its current operator. I will say that in April 2025, LaMarcus did return to Sanctioned, but his role was reduced to being just an advisor. Besides this, the only significant piece of information I managed to find is that LaMarcus used to be big into RuneScape, which honestly explains literally everything that happened here, given the effects that game has on people's minds.
I literally clicked, dude.
Beyond the actual people who run Sanctioned, it turns out that in the process of looking into them, people found out that they ran 3 other sites which became similarly notorious, even if they weren't as grim as Sanctioned. While I couldn't find a cohesive article or YouTube video
Promise wala pa kita dyan, Wick.
one report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate in 2023
Promise wala pa kita dyan, Wick.
Hindi ba magmatilaan sa pamamamulis?
truly did put 2 and 2 together. However, I will say that they can be quite biased in the way
Promise wa pa kayo hinumduman
because their
about John
CEO
Wick.
is a British left-wing activist. I'm not pointing
John
this
Wick
out
ta,
because
nindot man daw na.
he says can and should be discounted because of
Nga
that.
pa kita John Wick.
Everyone has a perspective.
Dindagan kayo mag-discuss na, muna ni, iyahang last na movie.
Also,
Dan ka ni, retired naman unta siya, pero karoon ibalik siya rin.
can't get any
Yeah. Move ba?
Looksmaxing.org, the home of clavicular, bone smashing, and other Bogandoffish abominations, and
Patay-patay?
net. For those who are not in employment, education, or training.
Patay-patay, baka maganahan.
At the same time, basically all of these sites were, in one way or another, created in response to the huge ban
Hindi ka ganahan?
going on in the late 2010s on Reddit, aiming to foster the communities that no longer
Hindi mo ganahan. Action man ka mo ganahan. Hindi sila mo ganahan. Action, dayon.
its own insular and interesting story. First,
Hindi siya pala na-depend on Fernando po. Tapos hindi na nag-drum ikot ang spice ng mga tapos naminig sila kabayo.
Action na dyan daw siya, bebe. Per nice daw siya. Action. Organize kag story. No? Ano sa? Basta kayo kumasa yung language na. Ay, dapat. Murag ka ng panuhasay. Ah, sabala ka saan eh? F U C K Y O U. Ang shortcut mo na. Kani may murag mas trick yung murag ka ng ninja. Huh? A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y and Z. Balo kung sa language, no? What? Panik kayo, bebe. Balag, mga rock and roll. Balag ka niya. Ba't ma? Rock and roll, di ba na yung rock and roll? Tapos, yung kumama, bad daw ni na sign. Because awa, sungay, demonyo, mana, mga rock and roll, mga anak sila. Mga satanas, mga ilah, hindi paminaw. Baby, this is I love you. Muna yung origin sa rock. Naginani sila because I love you. In shorthand. Then nahimo na noong horns. Ain't no way, bruh. Ain't no way, bruh. That's so weird. Anyways. What the? Share ko lang gamay. Sa tawag na etymology sa origins of this one. Gang nyo na sign, that's I love you, bro. Yan eh. Sa una daw, I mean, theory daw ni, but most likely true. Sa una, itong medieval times, mga archers, bibi, mga archers, panakpana na sila. Tapos, muna yung mga hadlock sa una, kaya hindi maduol ba kay panaon. So, if ever na sila yung madakpan ng mga prisoners na sa kalaban na archers, ilang pamputlon para di na sila kapana. Ang mga maka-escape na mga prisoners na archer, kay anao nila lang kalaban para marag pinabitaw ton napamang kamot, mga bogo mo, pa ninyo naputol, amuhang minsan eh. Darao, napamang kamot. Then eventually, nag-evolve siya daw into something na, in general, pang-pakyo sa mga tao, pang-insult. Na, Ah.
Tapos, ang mga people, mahal na sila. Kasi actually sila correlated sa fuck you. O
Okay.
yung anak na fuck you.
Ah.
Tapos, isa ka ko ano siya. Kasi naman lang siguro pa like, look at this, fuck you.
Yeah. Basta mo na yung origins daw. I don't know, sa true, but backed up by history claims mo daw to. So, I guess. No, to earlier. Ani. It actually happened. Na-enjoy archers na nag-ana sa mga tao. But, ang dili confirmed is if mo ba na ang main origin sa Pacquiao na sign or coincidence lang nakatupad ilang giana-ana. Then, nahimo pong kani Pacquiao pod sa other region. Then, nag-correlate lang sila coincidentally. Dili sila sure tungod atong Pacquiao sa archers nahimong Pacquiao na nato na modern. But it's true karon kani natong sign karon Pacquiao sa unang panahon kani archers na nagtonton, so that's it. But yeah, mo to. Balo ka ang sa origins, okay. Ano okay man na? Ano kumayon kag sakto na may kag okay. What even is okay? Abbreviation na? Word na? Balo ka ang sa okay? No, it means sa ako alata na. Sa tawag gali ani? Kani, verified na no ani, unsa ni? All correct. Oh no, wait. No. Di na mao. Dili, eh! Dili, eh! Dili, I know it's from a club. I know it's from a club. Lahi lagi na eh. Alam, mali ako ang unsa ni bebe. Lahi ang ginaingon sa internet ug sa unsa akong hibaw-an. Ako, ay, nawala si bebe. Bebe? Hello? Sa akong hinumduman, okay means mura na siya abbreviation sa murag fraternity. Dayon, kanina mga fraternity kay it's not like frat boys or girls. Mura siya kanang kung makasulod ka ani na frat, meaning very good boy kay ka. Like model student ka, model person. Ay, bitaw? Tapos, gi-associate nila ang kanang good boys to, okay ka na tao. Meaning, okay siya na tao means model ka na tao, we're good. Then hitabong, himo na dayon siyang meaning of affirmative. Dara oh. Okay club.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Man siya. Daw. But lahi may magawas dire. Something about slogan, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure gikan to ni Vsauce ang ako ang source. Vsauce is very reliable in terms of info, I think. So, I don't know. Kabalo ka. Giyon sa pag-discover sa microwave. Bebe. Giyon sa pag-discover sa microwave. And sa una, kabalo ka say function sa microwave. The beginning, from the word itself, it's microwaves. Tapos, kanina waves, kung makontakt ni sa mong skin, bam! Imong skin mo uyog. Or imong atoms mo uyog tungkol sa wave, bam! Nga na kung kinapil. Ninamdam ka unsay heat. Kung moinit ang things, it just means ang imuhang atoms, ganaanat, right? Kung mubukal ang tubig, ang atoms ato na tubig, ganaanat. Kung bugna ang tubig, anak ang atoms. So, ito na wave, murag gibank ang mga atoms na nasusulod sa microwave. Ng init. Originally, ang microwaves, gigamit siya as a form of communication, radios. Sa mga pilot sa una sa World War. Pero, katong isa ka bok operator sa katong murag telecom sa microwave, nabantayan niya, natunaw daw iyahang chocolate. While naa siya doon, like, kung yati nga na, natunaw mo kong chocolate. Dahil, iniyahang di-research sa microwave, nabantayan niya, na tungod sa microwave, matunaw ang mga gamit o mainit. So, naghimo na siya microwave oven, baby. Wow! Kabalo ka, ahagi ka ng penicillin. Kabalo ka ang si penicillin. Ay, wala na. Shut down na. Okay. Shut down na si Benji.
Cells.is, which was clearly the main.
Okay. Okay, le. Yeah. Le, na nakalimot ko. Na sobraan. Isa raman ang tatakbo.
Sanctioned. In it, he claims that despite all of the hubbub from journalists, actual law enforcement authorities only reached out to him twice, which is a bit surprising considering the amount of attention his case was getting at its peak. He does make some good points about how involuntary commitment to mental hospitals is part of why communities like Sanction exist, as people with those feelings can't express themselves freely in fear they'll get put away against their will. Additionally, he confirms that despite having left the website for years at this point, journalists will still insist on reaching out to him instead of its current operator. I will say that in April 2025, LaMarcus did return to Sanctioned, but his role was reduced to being just an advisor. Besides this, the only significant piece of information I managed to find is that LaMarcus used to be big into RuneScape, which honestly explains literally everything that happened here, given the effects that game has on people's minds.
I literally clicked, dude!
Beyond the actual people who run Sanction, it turns out that in the process of looking into them, people found out that they ran 3 other sites which became similarly notorious, even if they
Huwag mo ko, di
weren't.
nasaman.
While I couldn't find a cohesive article or YouTube video making this connection, one report from the Center for Countering Digital Hate in 2023 actually did put 2 and 2 together. However, I will say that they can be quite biased in the way they present their information, as their CEO is a British left-wing activist. I'm not pointing this out to say that everything he says can and should be discounted because of that. I'm just saying everyone has a perspective. As per the graph on page 13, Marcus and Diego also owned Incel.is, created for all men who can't get any or are otherwise frustrated at the opposite sex. Looksmaxing.org, the home of clavicular, bone smashing, and other Bogandoffish abominations, and Neats.net, for those who are not in employment, education, or training. While they weren't all created at the same time, basically all of these sites were, in one way or another, created in response to the huge ban wave that was going on in the late 2010s on Reddit, aiming to foster the communities that no longer had a place on their platform. I'll be going over these one by one, as each website has its own insular and interesting story. First off, we have incels.is, which was clearly the main focus of the CCDH's report. At the time this data was collected, there were only 4,000 active members, with 400, quote, power users who were responsible for 3/4 of the posts on the forum. Now, I have no idea how exactly they reached this conclusion, but the report says nearly 90% of users are supportive of sexual assault. When I said that this report was biased, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. I assume that any joke regarding the subject automatically puts the user in the category of supportive, otherwise this stat makes no sense whatsoever, especially since a significant portion of the forum is geared towards instructing men on how to get women to consent to banging them. On the other hand, something that is quite concerning and verifiably true is that in 2022, one of the forum's rules changed from do not sexualize minors in any way, shape, or form to do not sexualize prepubescent minors in any way, shape, or form. If you have basic ball knowledge when it comes to losers, creeps, and pedos, you instantly know this means it's free reign for it's actually ephebophilia crowd. Later on, it seems this rule was changed back to its original form, although I'm not sure why either of these updates happened. Other rules that are more in the realm of funny rather than concerning include do not post blue-pilled content of any kind, and no gay or LGBT content unless you're criticizing it. This rule is somewhat redundant since the membership part of the rules already makes it clear that nobody who is a female, LGBTQ, non-incel, or under 18 should be allowed to register, but I guess they wanted to really hammer the point in. Despite their lack of tolerance for all of these groups, it seems they do allow furries and bronies, as well as people of any religious persuasion to join. So, if you're a Jewish convention regular, then this forum welcomes you. They make it easy on new members by explaining what an incel is in minute detail. Our community's unique definition of the term and word incel is not exactly the same as what you might find in the normie world or in the dictionary. For us, an incel is a male who has never had a romantic, voluntary, unpaid sexual relationship with a human female ever in his entire life, and no romance whatsoever in his entire life with a human female. So this means to join up here and not be banned, you must have never had a girlfriend or wife, nor even a fling or one-night stand, as that too can be based in a type of fleeting romantic love or passion. The community has also repeatedly voted that so-called escort cells, i.e. men who have paid sex with prostitutes, whether on a regular basis, once in a while, or whenever the mood strikes, may also be considered incels and join the community, since a majority of our user base agrees that romantic pair bonding is what separates the normies and chads, i.e. sex havers from incels, and not simply sex itself. Once a person is able, if ever, to obtain a woman's love and affection and voluntary sexual intercourse from her, that man has ascended, meaning they have leveled up beyond incel status and now become a normie or a chad. On some level, I have to respect what these people have, as they could easily make a
What
fool
the
of any
fuck?
socially inept person, but instead, they deliberately make their standards as exclusive as possible. As of 2025, they've updated their rules to also ban people who are into femdom and those who use profile pictures from The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, the reason being that they are apparently gay. They also eventually had to crack down on people talking about going ER, which is shorthand for committing a mass casualty event, with ER meaning Elliot Rodger, the infamous shooter who proudly called himself the Supreme Gentleman before killing 6 people, injuring another 14, and taking his own life. While the counter-hate report on it does overstate incels' propensity for violence by a wide margin, there is at least one case where a potential attacker was linked to the forum, Trey Genko, who allegedly posted to incels.is under the alias Oedipus, as he actively planned to slaughter women, although he was thankfully caught before he carried out his plans. With that being said, the forum was in hot water from its very birth. It was originally created as a response to the banning of subreddits for incels, and shortly thereafter, Alec Manassian committed his attack. For those of you who are unfamiliar, he was a self-professed incel who ran over a bunch of people in a van. Although he only ever mentioned being on 4chan, any platform that actively housed incels became targeted by the media, which was frequently responded to by Lamarcus through his account on incels called Master. But besides these extremely dark incidents, there have also been plenty of exotic personalities who have posted to the forum, who are now documented on the dedicated wiki page. These include Emba, a 62-year-old user who had only ever been with women twice in his entire life, both of whom were prostitutes. Rice-A-Roni-Cell, described as a 5'4" balding Chinese Filipino man with an overbite, crow's feet, and dark circles around his eyes, who worked in Walmart until he was 36 and had one failed attempt on his life, which left him with a scar. Mentally Lost Cell, a 6'3" Turkish man in his mid-20s who was beaten by his father and apparently was really into femboys, which ultimately got him banned from the website, among many, many others. It's pretty interesting to me how, despite their extreme intolerance toward a variety of different things, the Incels forum draws people from all walks of life and all places in the world, all of whom are united by their deep inability to function in society well enough to get love from a woman. But incels.is is just one of the 3 other sites created by Diego and Lamarcus, although the 2 others are very much parallel to incels. Right now, thanks to Clavicular, one of these 2 is gaining a lot of notoriety, lookback.org, which is basically for proto-incels who want to ascend by improving their physical appearance. According to these people, at least many of them, your looks are the defining characteristic not only to get sex and love from women, but also to get anything in your life whatsoever. Unlike incels.is, which is extremely exclusive with its membership standards, Looksmax is a lot more tolerant, which is partly why they have well over 100,000 members, despite being a Web 2.0 looking forum. While they don't allow LGBTQ content, you're only really forbidden from joining if you're a girl, which means you can technically be gay and post there as long as you don't talk about your love for your fellow man. The only real objective of all the users here is to look better by any means necessary or available, and based on what I can tell, they even allow minors to enter. Again, this is slightly ethically questionable because a huge portion of the procedures that are taught and facilitated on this forum are things that no minor should be doing. A lot of these people outright push for the use of hard steroids or getting plastic surgeries, and desperate teenage boys who are going nuts because they don't have a girlfriend yet are falling for it. Now, not every user of Looksmax is like Clavicular, but still, it's not exactly an environment a teenager should be exposed to. Now that Looksmaxing related things are trending big on TikTok, there are a lot of kids who are basically being tricked into thinking that this is just an innocuous community for men who want to look better, when the reality is a good bit crazier than that. Much like incels and sanctioned, the community of looksmax.org also has its own long history that precedes the existence of the website. And to be honest, the role this community has played is underrated if you really think about it. A lot of people around my age, so early Zoomers, will remember that the late 2000s and early 2010s internet was mired in what's now recognized as the skeptic community. Basically, it started out as atheists that wanted to debunk Christianity and slowly transitioned to focusing on feminism and politics. But what's usually overlooked is that during the transitional period, it briefly became adjacent to the proto-red pill pickup artist community because of their shared dislike there came a forum called FAAAAAAAAAHHH.com, a now defunct pickup artist website where the actual Elliot Rodger used to post. FAAAAAAAAHHH is basically where the Black Pill was born. The idea that no amount of game, confidence, assets, or red pill knowledge will help you if you're genetically superior, and the genetically superior will always get everything because they simply look better than you, are taller than you, etc. Consequently, all quote-unquote
Let's go!
pickup artist guru stuff was a scam to these people. Eventually, two other websites popped up that shared the same community. Hate, which eventually became Red Pill Talk, and contained a lot of discussions about what would now be called soft maxing, or improving your looks without surgical intervention, and lookism.net. Now, this trifecta of websites, typically referred to as PSL, became the cornerstone of the Black Pill community, which eventually came together in its final form, looksmax.org. While all of these transitions were taking place, this community consistently produced not only memes, but also terminology that seemed to always find its way into mainstream use. Given the popularity of the products of this niche, it's honestly not surprising that it's by far the biggest website out of all of them. You basically can't use TikTok without stumbling onto someone mewing nowadays. Besides Clav, whom I already posted a whole video on, which you should definitely watch, there are a few other notable members of Looksmax as well. First off, there's James Sapphire, someone I've already made a couple of videos about on my second channel when I was still doing that whole thing. I should note that the amount of disinformation surrounding James is enormous, and I fell for some of it myself. Basically, he's a TikToker who was in on looksmaxing early, but seemingly lost his mind as he fell deeper into its rabbit hole. Because of his willingness to play into the horrific online persona that was cultivated around him, a lot of videos were spread about him getting extreme plastic surgery, eating his own poop, and a variety of other tall tales that were taken seriously. Although most of his online mythology turns out to be fake, whether it came from him or other people online who wanted to make him look like an insane person, it seems that James indeed was destroying his life via a combination of drugs and self-destructive clout seeking. Eventually, he changed his tune to claim that the black pill was at fault for ruining his life, and he made a thread on Looksmax saying this: "Logged in to delete my account. This is my last message here. I will not be seeing any replies. Nothing left for me here. I got nothing left to prove. Deleted everything. Gave away all my social media accounts, emails, etc. No hope left for me here. Can't get a job, college, or a relationship because of my digital footprint. I don't care what happens to me anymore. I don't give a shit about anything anymore, let alone any music I've ever made or anything. Wasted all of my time, money, and resources to pursue this project. I'm done with it. I have been for a while now. I knew this time would come for a while. It's all gone now. Hope you guys archived it. If not, I don't give a I'll be destroying this computer soon with a sledgehammer and dumping it in the nearest lake. Wasted all my teenage years because I was young, impressionable, and brainwashed by sick people like all of you who like to prey on children and indoctrinate them into this cult. I didn't even want to say anything that rude besides the opening lines of this thread generalizing just a few people, but y'all's response proves that you all lack empathy for a young mind who was tortured into self-isolation, psychosis, drugs, and manipulated by people older than them to do twisted things on the internet, like saying the most outlandish, offensive things, hitting my face with a hammer for 2 years, and other things I don't even want to bring up in exchange for clicks and laughs directed towards me. I was misguided. No parental figures to help guide me the right way, didn't have therapy or a way to medicate myself, and all this doesn't affect me anymore. Black pill is not real. Looksmaxing doesn't work. I am not an incel. I am not a part of this community anymore, doing what I should have done a long time ago. I was in crystal meth psychosis given to me at 17 by my own mother, who I haven't seen in exactly 1 year since I had my overdose on January 14th, 2023. I'm sorry to anyone I've ever hurt or any girl or guy I threatened, and I am sorry to this community for even making an account. My presence was not needed here. I was just a dumb kid with too much time on my hands, seeing hallucinations consisting of the most awful, horrid imagery, demons, etc., depersonalization, derealization, sleep paralysis, psychosis, and much more. I was not in my right mind from the time I created this account, but being here just made it worse. I am broke now. Spent all my last 10 grand on drugs and Uber Eats. I'm not upset at any of the users here anymore. This paragraph was enough to let it out. I feel as if a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I am not mad at the mods or the owner of this website either, as they had no responsibility for the chronically online internet trolls on this website. Goodbye now. This has been an emotional roller coaster for me typing this. I'm not bipolar. I'm just feeling every single emotion. This is like a come down from the acid trip. Have a nice life. Hope it treats you well. And oh yeah, one more thing. Don't himself, by the way. That's never the right answer. Of course, all of you are not bad, although many of you are slowly becoming. It is always the handful bunch of rotten, bitter users and a closer statement to them. I will not see any further messages. Appreciate all the hateful messages on this thread. Thanks for the hospitality. While this response seems pretty candid, I will reiterate how untrustworthy a lot of the information surrounding James Sapphire is, even the bits that he provides, so take it all with a grain of salt. Besides him, we also have James FT, an Iranian man whose biggest claim to fame is pissing off the entire country of Cambodia by making a video about how terrible it is.
Do not come to Cambodia. I can barely get any matches on Tinder, and everything is dirty and filthy. Look at this gigantic rat.
We also have Brendio, who is probably the most positive story from this website. Now, he's technically a fake cell because he did have a female significant other who broke up with him in 2020, but regardless, in 2019, he willingly represented the incel community in a Jubilee video, which now stands at nearly 7 million views.
If you could summarize your opinion towards women?
Like what I think of them?
Yes.
I do think they are very important, but
This video is kind of funny to watch if you're familiar with actual incel stuff and not the caricature of it, because the way the video is structured does give the vibe that they were trying to make him look bad, when in reality, he actually seems like a pretty normal guy, all things considered. Since then, he's actually lost a lot of weight and looks much better. As a looks maxer would put it, he's ascended. Lastly, there's Neat.net, the smallest forum by far, and consequently the least eventful. The main two categories on the website are Neat Lifestyle, which is reserved for discussions of the lives of people who don't work and don't go to college, and Anime and Manga, which is pretty self-explanatory. Although this website is meant for unemployed people, it doesn't seem like it fosters the kind of community that subreddits about the same concept do, with the main difference being that the subreddits will blame society, politics, and economics for their problems, while Neats either blame themselves or the nature of reality itself that requires them to toil forever to make a living. Neats.net is a lot more lighthearted in comparison to any of the other three sites, and this really shows, given that the majority of the activity on this forum actually takes place in the off-topic section, where people post memes, music, random life stories, and other things like that. One of the latest threads on it is by Zoomer Psycho, with the title being, "Already lost my New Year's resolution of no porn. I folded hard after watching Sophie Rain stripping on Twitter. Gooned 3 times today. That is pretty grim." Ultimately, despite there being some questionable stuff on these other sites, none of them hold a candle to just how controversial Sanctioned is. And given how lighthearted these other sites can get, it's hard to believe they're all connected, not just by the site's founders, but also by some of its community members. While the Marcus and Diego are largely out of the picture, the communities themselves have lived on and are as strong as ever, although it's uncertain what they'll be looking like in a few years. Part of why they even exist in the first place is because of how censor-friendly Reddit became in the late 2010s. So if there's ever a more convenient alternative to these forums, they could easily slow to a halt. Alternatively, it's possible that the controversy spawned from Sanctioned and Looksmax could eventually lead lawmakers to try and crack down on them. Ultimately, only time will tell. Anyhow, there's no way that this video is going to be monetized given the subject matter, so if you enjoyed it and you want to see more content like this, check out the merch at turkeytom.shop. We have a new beanie in stock. It's going to be very, very useful for these cold winter months, and we also have the first shirt I ever released back in stock right now for all of you to check out. The design on both of these is pretty sick, and if you wear it in public, there's about a 4% chance someone will know what it is and bully you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is Base 44. This is a first look at the current...
You know, Elmo, I think we could dispatch you to the Middle East. Maybe you could solve some problems there.
Really? Where's the Middle East?
The art of puppetry is a very unique one. It requires the careful manipulation of inanimate objects to make them seem lifelike beyond mere human imagination. For those in the profession, complete mastery can only follow years of vigorous training and performances, with such displays of talent drawing enthusiasts from far and wide.
You want to start us off? Sure, okay. Where is, don't do it, your other, no, hand, no, No, what? Don't do that. Why not? Because you know, I know, yeah, and I don't agree with it. I know. But it's how it is. Yeah.
What the hell?
Many of these enthusiasts congregate online to create communities out of their passions. And in 2017, a small-time South Carolina girl by the name of Sierra Green set up a TikTok account to be a part of it, while also posting about her personal life and hobbies. Sounds The art of puppetry is a very unique one. It requires the careful manipulation of inanimate objects to make them seem lifelike beyond mere human imagination. For those in the profession, complete mastery can only follow years of vigorous training and performances, with such displays of talent drawing enthusiasts from far and wide.
You want to start us off? Sure, okay. Where is, don't do it, your other, no, hand, no, what? Don't do that. Why not? Because you know, I know, yeah, and I don't agree with it. I know. But it's how it is. Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, many of these enthusiasts congregate online to create communities out of their passions. And in 2017, a small-time South Carolina girl by the name of Sierra Green set up a TikTok account to be a part of it, while also posting about her personal life and hobbies. Sounds pretty unremarkable, but there was one small catch. The videos she posted were profusely unhinged, and
What the hell?
that she formed with willing, and more often than not, unwilling individuals would eventually garner her notoriety all over the internet, culminating in 2025 with her complete disappearance from the internet amongst a flurry of allegations of inappropriate behavior. With all of this coming together to beckon the question, what happens when the line between person and puppet becomes blurred? I'm Turkey Tom, and this is Iciera the Furry. Early records of Iciera's time online are patchy. Her early TikTok and YouTube accounts were both removed from the platform, and she wouldn't become the subject of the internet's attention until around 2021. Her background similarly isn't too available, but in a few older videos, she has shared some of the more unique sides of herself. She's in her 20s, she's 5'1", she's taken, she's asexual, she claims to be autistic, and she was a child of fetal alcohol syndrome, or FAS for short.
Children afflicted with FAS generally lack social skills too. They tend to get easily frustrated, thereby throwing temper tantrums very often. They exhibit symptoms of being overactive and are not able to sit in a place.
FAS is the most serious manifestation of a spectrum of disorders that arise from alcohol intake during pregnancy. There are many symptoms that can present in children with this condition, but in this video, Sierra highlights the more behavioral aspects, and it wasn't too hard to see exactly why. From the start, Sierra's raised eyebrows from those who discovered her content. Such content would often entail poorly timed lip syncs, some very weird choreographed dance routines, and trippy editing that really didn't possess any real purpose. There was something very primitive about Sierra's videos. This was clearly a person who understood how to operate technology and how to create content, but at the same time possessed no actual grasp on why creators make the artistic choices that they do. However, the strangeness doesn't stop there. In fact, it's just the start, as Sierra's interests in how she expressed them went a little further than the average TikToker.
I want to kiss you. So hard that you will never get a kiss of me out of your mouth.
One of Sierra's primary passions was puppetry, which is a pretty harmless hobby for all intents and purposes, or so you would think, because Sierra's intent behind her interest in puppets often went beyond being merely platonic. Although she wasn't an expert in the field, she definitely knew how to make the subject appear absolutely terrifying.
Wait, don't go. Hold up. I do 1 minute at a time. If you're a furry, and if you'd like, could you be friends with me? That's all I'm asking, please.
And Sierra was also a furry, who would regularly equip herself with paper ears and dinosaur masks to express herself to her audience. These often included videos where she would emulate traits of animals, which I suppose is somewhat normal for those in the furry community, but it really isn't too normal for many other people.
Yo, Pudgy, how you feel about people saying you sound like Yoshi?
We're still not quite done yet, though, because given that she informed the world of her fetal alcohol syndrome, you can probably come to the reasonable conclusion that Sierra is terminally online. For her, this meant sharing practically every single aspect of her life with TikTok, including her friendships and relationships, which she handled with even greater levels of instability. She often sought out camaraderie with other men, who she would encounter on TikTok and cozy up to until they let her into their life. The honorary position that many of the people in her circle were given was that of the brother. Contrary to popular belief, this is not because they are blood relatives. Instead, it seems to be a reference to the fact that she would view you as someone who was always going to be there for her, which is a pretty demanding expectation. The problem was that she really didn't have much to offer in return to these people, so many of them ended up distancing themselves from her because she was just too much to handle, which would then cause her to crash out and ask what she did wrong. She would often tag these former friends and hope that sharing her story with confused onlookers would somehow feel like an authentic means of self-expression and woo them back to her. Unfortunately for Sierra, in practically every scenario, this did not work out.
Because ever since she accepted me as her internet brother, she has done nothing but ping me nonstop, almost daily to weekly to monthly, for 2 years. So I kindly asked her to stop pinging me so much. And she would always bring up a bunch of excuses, like how much she wants to express her love and saying that her disability was the problem, even though it wasn't. I want to move on from this, but she still doesn't.
Her overly clingy nature, combined with her strange personality, made it hard for her to keep any of the people that she wanted the attention of in her life, often pushing them away. This meant that for the first of her 4 years on TikTok, she mostly existed in her own little world, attracting a little bit of attention, but nothing that would make her remotely memorable. However, that was all about to change, as Sierra was about to go mainstream. You see, Sierra would run through multiple men before settling on someone who didn't seem particularly understanding of her advances, but at the same time, he didn't try to actively push her away like others had.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
This is Mitterman the Puppet Man, or Gregory. Like many of the other gentlemen that Sierra took an interest in, he is autistic. It probably won't come as a surprise to you to find out that he is also a puppet enthusiast, and he even has his own puppet by the name of Stan. However, unbeknownst to Gregory, soon he would have an even bigger Stan to deal with.
Boo, I'm a spooky ghost. You don't sound that scary. You want to say that again?
Given their shared interest in puppets, Mitterman first encountered Sierra around the late 2010s, even doing duets with her a few times on TikTok.
That's fine.
Of course I love him. He's the cutest puppet in the world. Somebody who loves me. Yes, I love him too. I'm his favorite, and he's my favorite.
Sierra appeared to be equally interested in Greg as she was in his puppet, even staging some sort of romantic imposition onto both. However, when Sierra perhaps came to her senses and realized that the puppet wasn't real, she turned to the man behind him. It's hard to say when Sierra's crush developed into a full-blown romantic engagement, but according to our furry friend, they officially entered a relationship in 2020, with Sierra and Mitterman sharing romantic TikToks and projecting their loving relationship online for the world to see, even creating her own TikTok family where Stan is the son, which definitely has implications when you consider she tried to date him too. But if you paid closer attention, you'd probably realize that this was a bit one-sided.
Looking fine today.
However, it didn't seem like Gregory was actively trying to distance himself from Sierra. He even tagged her in his TikToks from time to time. On one of Greg's own uploads, someone tagged Sierra asking if this was her man, and Greg replied stating, "I am her man," which provides confirmation that he was at least aware of the relationship and seemed to want to be in it. Greg also posted a Valentine's Day tribute on behalf of Stan, which seemed to demonstrate some romantic interest in Sierra. However, as her TikTok surrounding this relationship only intensified, with Sierra even sharing DMs with the world to show they were in a relationship, Greg began to take a step back. This was because after years of posting, his girlfriend was finally attracting attention for her eclectic expressions of insanity, which Greg was beginning to feel the effects of.
I'm back.
What the
Now,
fuck?
Sierra could have managed this by decreasing the volume of her own posts and giving him her attention instead, but that would have been too sensible. Greg would ask if they could return to being friends in light of all of this attention, but Sierra just said no.
I know you don't want me to leave, but It's time to move on.
Okay, babe, I have a question for you. Since you do all these TikTok videos, can you please get some content, please?
Sierra Green was the type of creator that drew people in because they were completely bewildered by the content that she uploaded. Even if we set aside the unhinged partner posting, there was material that would make you question whether this person was even real.
My ears are crappy? Well, get this. At least I made mine instead of having to spend my own money on a pair of ears.
By 2021, she was beginning to develop this strange cult following of fan pages, some of them being outwardly ironic, and others blurring the line a little.
I beat the thing up, non-stop, and let your homeboy hit it.
The viewers had discovered a treasure trove with Sierra Green, a person so lacking in self-awareness, yet also being so willing to put practically all of that ignorance on display, even the parts that people probably wouldn't want to see. It seemed virtually beyond belief that a person like this actually existed, and when they peeled back the onion, they only found more layers to pick apart.
They stank?
Yes. No.
One of the most common targets was her political stances, which landed her in hot water pretty immediately, especially given the communities that she identified with. One of her more public spats was with the LGBT community. Despite the fact that she herself identified as an asexual furry, it seems that the thought of same-sex marriage was one step too far for her, as she very eloquently declared it weird.
I don't support LGBTQ because it's wrong and very weird. Seeing people with all those flags hanging on the wall, gay, trans, whatever, it's just not right, dude. Everybody needs to be equal. Everyone needs to be in their own way. I was born straight and I am proud to be straight. These people just choose to be who they really want to be. They're not born that way. They can't be born that way.
To be fair to her, she is from a small town in South Carolina, and those communities tend to trend more conservative than the rest of the country. But what's more interesting to me is that her position seemed at odds with how she understood herself. And eventually, after persistent arguments with the community, which seemed to point out this contradiction, she changed her mind and decided she was no longer homophobic. In spite of all of this happening, allegations surrounding her character continued to offer themselves up on a silver platter. And because Sierra had a very visceral reaction to being compared to homophobes, racists, or the baby, it only encouraged people to persist further.
Who is the baby? Because I do not look nothing like whoever that person is. I'm done. I'm done. I'm so done. I'm done.
Given how obsessive she was over trying to control those in her life, and even the narrative surrounding her, it seemed strange that she possessed practically no self-control whatsoever.
Will you please?
She would attempt to adapt to this newfound fame, but this would only serve to aggravate the relationship with her audience.
You might be wondering why I'm pretty pissed off right now. Yeah. When I say my ears aren't for sale, I didn't mean just go and make your own ears.
One of these ventures was a Discord server where people could meet with fellow Sierra fans. But as soon as it was launched, it was swamped by trolls and raiders who swarmed the server to unleash hell. And Sierra herself was the pinnacle of incompetence when it came to actually being in charge of anything. Although it's unknown what exactly caused it, given the many dramas she had started in the span of a few months, her TikTok account would be suspended in mid-June, causing the content train to come to a screeching halt.
Split screen.
It appeared that Sierra hadn't taken the news well either, as reports began to make the rounds suggesting that she had tragically died shortly after. And because there were some websites that made the same claim, as well as a few articles, and the fact there was radio silence since her ban, which for everyone who knew her seemed pretty out of character, tributes began to flood in from those who mourned her, and the content that she had blessed the TikTok platform with. Even if it was ironic, Sierra Green had managed to cultivate an ardent following from her content. She had given audiences priceless comedy, political commentary, and romance. It was like a story unfolding in front of our eyes, and like the Shakespeare of our time, it appeared to have ended in tragedy. However, in the end, something was stirring, something that said she wasn't quite finished yet, although by the end of this video, you might wish she had. It turns out that Sierra was very much alive, and that she had plenty more plans for her main problem over the next few years was a power struggle with TikTok to establish herself as an online presence again, with many of her rebooted TikTok accounts being deleted as soon as they were created. During this time, a lot of people couldn't really keep up with the new accounts, and a lot of them forgot about her existence altogether, almost like she was dead. This left her to often post updates on her remaining social media, which mainly consisted of her YouTube channel, where she would attempt to emulate the success she had found on TikTok with YouTube Shorts. Before her ban, she had actually used this channel for musical projects and as a content dump for other miscellaneous stuff. But after being kicked off TikTok, she would begin to post music more frequently, including classics like My Intro Song, Dance to Forget, and my personal favorite, the McDonald's rap.
I need a double cheeseburger and hold the lettuce. Don't be fun, son, no seeds on the bun. We be up in this drive-thru, order for two. Got a craving for a number 9 like mine. Mix some chicken up in here.
Any content that was uploaded here was just as characteristically unstable as we've come to expect. But you may have noticed that someone is missing from many of the videos. Her beloved Greg.
I'm old enough to get
Sorry. What? Okay. Kapit na na eh.
tongue bath anyhow.
She had posted one YouTube short that had to do with him, and she possibly posted more content onto deleted TikTok accounts, but her interests as a whole seemed to pivot back towards the more fictional and parasocial. It seems there was trouble in paradise. But if there was, we could always count on Sierra to share exactly what it was. And in August, while struggling to hold down the TikTok account, she posted another music video on YouTube addressing her relationship, seamlessly marrying the personal and creative in a way that only Sierra could do, with the title being I'm Not a Pedo.
I'm missing my boyfriend. He's always something. But he broke up with me ever since my friends told I'm a P.
As far as I could find, nobody was making such claims publicly, so this was, again, a more personal matter to her. Yet, she cuts right to the chase and explains what's been happening, sharing that she's been missing her boyfriend dearly, but also saying that those close to her have compelled him to stop talking to her because of certain allegations.
But my friends told him to stay away from me. Even though I don't look like a pig, that means pedophile.
Now, as I've already said, at this point in time, there was no evidence that she had been doing anything inappropriate. Although it's not the wisest to be friends with 15-year-olds as a 24-year-old TikTok influencer, Sierra is definitely not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And at the time, it would have been hard to sell her as a manipulator. Nevertheless, it is notable that by her own admission, it was her friends who told Greg to stop talking to her. And it's not hard to wonder exactly why they would do such a thing. It's a very bizarre report from someone who is under no suspicion whatsoever, at least publicly. And wait, what the hell did I just watch?
I'm not a pedophile. I was just being nice to the 15-year-old.
When Sierra walks into the room, Colleen Ballinger gulps. R. Kelly and P. Diddy shivers. This is what everyone talks about when they talk about the response to end all responses. When I talk about lack of self-awareness, this is what I'm referring to. On one hand, there is just no way she actually thought this was a good idea. On the other, she must have thought it was a good idea in some way because she uploaded the video, not only sharing these incriminating details with the world when many of them weren't even aware, but also in the form of a song that's attempting...
Huh? Yeah. Ligo na. Hoy! Na. Hapit ko mamatay, bebe. Hapit ko mamatay. Naglanta og video while nag-workout ko tapos nag-squeeze press ko. So, dumbbell na ko. Nasa kong chest. Doon gana. Then, nakatawa na clip. Nakatawa ko naman ang kusog. Hapit ako, nabundak ako. Okay. Oh my god. Last. Huh? Sama
With the world when many of them weren't even aware, but also in the form of a song that's attempting to address potentially sensitive details. I just have so many questions that I don't think I'll ever be able to answer, and audience members did as well. If this isn't satire, then what is it? I think we could stop the video here and be done for the day, but she had so much more to say. She was motivated to make sure that this wasn't the last thing she would be remembered for, and although there aren't any major plot developments in the next couple years, Sierra's content continues in a similar vein to the previous videos, although it did draw in less drama during this time.
Hi, Jack.
Hi.
It's been so long since I've seen you.
I miss you.
Her life as an internet nomad would persist for another few years, and although she wasn't entirely forgotten about, it did become very difficult for anyone to keep up with her, with many of her frequent followers having to go to her comment section to ask for the username of her newest account. Eventually, this cycle would be broken at the end of 2023 with the creation of an account that goes by the name of Mika Love Iciera.
I have all this power at my fingertips.
It was unclear what exactly changed this time around, as TikTok's policies on ban evasion aren't exactly unambiguous. Nevertheless, she resumed posting with an expectation to stick around on this account.
So, basically, a lot of people have been asking, how do I get my pinky toes to look like this? Well, basically, I'm pretty much born like that.
Her content itself hadn't really changed much. The videos tended to focus more on art and animation, but nevertheless, it was still very much her own. It was still surreal to watch, with videos never really feeling purposeful or authentic. For example, at one point, she used an AI-generated voice and masqueraded it as her sister, which maybe to her was a tech-savvy decision, but it's pretty glaringly obvious, especially when you don't put the script through a spelling and grammar checker.
Hi everyone, this is Sierra's sister speaking. I help Sierra run the account and whatnot, but I just wanted to pop in and say a quick thank you to the recent support she's been getting.
The truth was that Iciera hadn't changed one bit. In fact, the only thing that had changed was who she focused her attention on.
Alright class, today we're going to be welcoming a new student into our class. Everybody meet Jaquavius Thompson. Nah, Jit, ugly. Nah, shoddy in love.
Since Greg had left Sierra's life, she had developed more traditionally parasocial relationships with public figures. Some familiar faces continued to be subject to her affection, like Jacksepticeye, but in the couple years, Sierra had diversified her tastes. In this time, she had become enamored by franchise.
Done! Whew. Fuck it. I'm done. Alright. Bye.